My name is Bhavna Barrett, and today we are going to be talking about getting your dream job. On the panel with me today, I'm going to have four incredible speakers. I'm going to introduce them to you. The first person that we're going to be speaking to is Deepal Shah. Deepal has worked in the investment banking world for 15 years and then decided after having children that she would become a coach, helping women return to the workplace with confidence and self-worth. She wants women to succeed with their careers and not feel guilty about being away from her family. She's also a working mom and juggles many balls. Her aim is to help clients be more resilient and see these challenges as opportunities, as well as enjoy what they do. Sumit is a solutions architect, and his company is called Spread Wisdom. He is a cloud solutions architect for a global technology firm and a former Toastmasters president. Sumit Sharma looks after a portfolio of projects involving all things technology, communication, and wellness. And as well as coaching corporates and charities on public speaking and effective communication, Sumit also hosts the Vichar Manthan podcast, a project looking to earnestly explore ideas through a dharmic lens. He has a can-do attitude and is a mentor to many, rallying impassioned, like-minded people to be part of the churning and facilitation of dharmic ideas. And then we've got the amazing Hina. Hina is a CV specialist. She's a qualified accountant as well as an NLP practitioner and a master practitioner, may I add, and then also an author. She works with intelligent, passionate, talented professionals who are looking to advance their career and combines her substantial experience in finance and finance recruitment with her writing and coaching skills to help you create a compelling, impactful CV. And we all know how important that is in the current climate. Your CV is the first impression you make on a new potential employer. And she's going to be talking to us today about how you can make the right impact and impression. We're also going to be talking to Sam Dosa, who is an emotional intelligence business and personal coach. And he believes that success lies within you. Create your destiny, success lies within you. We're born to win, but conditioned to fail. He's a proud father of three beautiful daughters and has carved himself with authenticity, integrity, self-care, self-respect, self-love, and a strong connection with the self. He has built within him the pure source of happiness. He has been immersed in personal motivation and permanent transformation since 2007 and has started to coach within the youth sector and then developed his business Transformation, which has been in operation since 2009. So as a result of this extensive international training of entrepreneurs and leaders, he's recognized as one of UK's top trainers and coaches. And we're going to be talking to him about mindfulness, mindsets, psychometric tests, communication skills, all these things that we need to land your dream job. And I'm going to come back to myself. I am a successful entrepreneur. I'm a mentor for female South Asian female entrepreneurs. I'm also the founder of Successful Superwomen, which is a vast network of incredible female entrepreneurs. We've got nearly 4,500 members. I run an online business school through a membership. And I'm also an award-winning wedding photographer and a mom of two very spirited young boys. So let's kick this off talking to Hina. Hina, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Hina, let's talk about CVs. How important are CVs in the current climate? Considering obviously we're going through this, we're navigating this pandemic, right? We're navigating furloughs, we're navigating people wanting to get new jobs. So how important are CVs in the current climate? Talk us through it.
Okay. I think, well, personally, obviously, it's a passion of mine. I think CVs are crucial because before you, as a human being, before you and your body get through the door to talk to somebody to have that interview, you have to send your CV in. You need them to look at a piece of paper, whether it's 2 or 3 pages long, and decide, yes, based on what you've told me on this piece of paper, I think you're interesting enough for me to want to talk to you more. So yeah, CVs are crucial.
And what would an ideal CV look like? I remember when I was job hunting many moons ago. I've left the corporate world now, but when I was job hunting all those years ago, it was this classic thing of you shouldn't have a CV that's more than a page long, or you need to have a photograph, or, you know, I remember being told, and I'll tell you this, my CV was terrible because I had no idea how to write this. I had like a 4-page CV. I put everything I needed to, I did this, that, you know, I was like, and then I just was getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And then I remember speaking to somebody who said, you just need to put everything on one page. Nobody has the time to read all this. You know, imagine getting hundreds of CVs. Who's got the time to read everything? You just want to know that you can do the job. So I changed my CV, and all I had was my education at the bottom, but my skills at the top. And I don't think that is still true now. I mean, you know, what advice would you give anyone that's writing a CV right now?
Okay, so I think it should be 1 page or 2 pages or 3 pages. That's gone out of the window. I think that's very much dependent on where you are in your career right now. I would be horrified if a graduate came out of university, had maybe had a couple of summer jobs, and gave me a 3-page CV, because I cannot imagine what they could possibly be telling me that's worth my time in that 3 pages. I worked with a guy who was a senior associate at the top bank about a month ago, and his CV went into 3 pages, and that was a really concise 3 pages, and it was full of information. And we could have gone on to 4 pages. So for him, that was appropriate. So I think what you have to do is measure where you are and what relevant experience you've got that you need to talk about. So in terms of pages, it really depends on where you are. In terms of format, I think, again, you have a lot of space depending on what kind of field you're going into to play with. But for example, I work primarily with people in finance, in sales, marketing. And actually, there's a format that I think works really well, and it's your personal profile right at the top, which is 6 or 7 sentences, and it really hones in on the core essence of who you are as a person and what you're potentially able to deliver to an employer. And what I like to do is always tell my clients that what you're doing when you're looking at your CV, don't think of it as the history of every piece of work you've ever done and all of your education. It's, as you said earlier, it's not something where you put absolutely everything in. What you need to do is think about, what are the reasons I applied for this role? I mean, there must be something that you think, yes, this looks challenging, or this fits my skill set, or yes, this would be the great next step up. And then what you do is you go, okay, so actually what the employer is doing is they're describing a problem, because they're recruiting for somebody because they need a problem. So what you want to do is you want to make your CV the solution to their problem. So then when you're thinking about that personal profile, that 6 or 7 sentences, you want to start talking about the skills that you've got that directly reflect the problem they're having. So if they're looking for somebody who's good at installing finance systems, that should be one of the first things you talk about. I have a personal pet hate, which I'm going to share with you guys. And my pet hate is when a CV starts with something like, I'm friendly and I'm hardworking and I'm outgoing, because I always tell my clients, and I'm quite brutal with them in a gentle way, but I always say to my clients, I'm going to apply the so what test. And the so what is, if I see that you're friendly on your CV, so what? As an employer, I don't particularly care. I care that you can get the job done, and telling me you're friendly doesn't tell me how you get the job done. The same with saying you're outgoing or you're hardworking. If you weren't hardworking, you wouldn't be, you would hope that somebody would be hardworking, otherwise why are they applying for the role? It's much more important if you're in a customer services role to say, I'm good at building relationships quickly, or I'm good at de-escalating difficult situations. If you're a project manager, it's really good to be able to say, I'm able to manage multiple projects and liaise with external and internal people confidently, the kind of things that people care about. So in terms of format, your profile statement it's the first 10 seconds, and it sometimes will lose you the job, because if somebody reads your profile and they think in that kind of 7 sentences, they don't get a feel for who you are and that you're going to fill that problem, that you're the solution, they won't read the rest of the CV. And if they don't read the rest of the CV, they're never going to learn how fabulous you are and what great experience you've got. So that's where I would start, is by really making sure that your profile statement is strong and gives lots of proof, if you like, of how good you are at what you can do. And then I would go on to talk about skills and achievements and your career history.
That's really interesting, because I see that kind of format on, LinkedIn, for instance. People tend to put up what they're really good at, so that people for certain kind of roles will look at it and say, well, actually, I really like that you've achieved this.
Yes.
And I take this approach when I speak to my clients, for instance, who are moving from a corporate role to a self-employed role and going onto LinkedIn looking for clients, for instance. It's the same kind of process. That why is someone going to come to you if, essentially everyone's looking for you to solve a problem for them?
Yes.
So it's the same format. Like I talk to people about websites the same way. You have a website, tell them, this is your problem, this is how I can help you solve it, and this is a solution, right?
Yeah.
So that is a really good format. That is really informative. And do you think a picture is necessary? Do you think we need to have a photograph?
I really don't think a picture is necessary. I think actually, personally, a picture can sometimes trigger unconscious biases in somebody that you don't need them to be seeing. If you don't have a picture, your words, they always say pictures speak 1,000 words, but actually in this case, the words are much stronger without the picture, because you haven't got the potential of them imagining, oh yeah, she looks like so-and-so who used to be this, and she was terrible. She was always coming in late and she never handed in her assignments on time. You don't want that association. So unless, I know in some European countries, some clients I've worked with in Switzerland, for example, there are some countries that you need your photo, but if you don't need it, don't include it.
So could you tell us, some of the things we should and should not include in the CV? So like, what are the things that you think are essential, and like we can have the photograph, right? So saying you don't need to have the photograph, but what are the things that you think are really, really important? So maybe the top 3 things that an employee would.
Okay, so I'm going to share with you a very rough précis of the way I format CVs for clients that I work with. So you have the profile statement, which we talked about, and that's your 10-second window to get them to read more. That's not the 10 seconds of, yes, we want to interview them, but it's 10 seconds to say, I've got 100 CVs, and actually this one's worth a little bit more time. Then I would go into I would then literally do a list of skills. So I normally do 2 columns and look at the skills that the job is talking about and look at the skills that you have. I think you need to be very careful and make sure that when you list skills, you list the skills that you actually have that relate to the job, but also look at the language that they use. So for example, if they talk about communication and client confidence, then use that. But if they talk about relationship building, which is kind of the same thing, then use that language. So try and mirror the language of the job, because again, what it's doing, and this is kind of from the NLP background, it's developing a little bit of a bond and a link with the person who's reading it, because they're thinking, she's on my page or he's on my page, he gets what the problem is. So I would then do that, maybe 8 to 12 bullet point, key skills lists. And again, this is really important because a lot of employers employ ATS, applicant tracking systems, and the applicant tracking systems will have keywords in there. And by having those keywords in your little list of skills, it's helping you to pass through that particular hurdle. So that will help. And then what I tend to do with my clients is I tend to ask them to pick 3 examples of things that they've done which demonstrate the 3 top skills that that job is asking for. And it's quite an unusual way to do a CV. But I say to them, tell me three kind of achievements you've had that are relevant. And then let's talk about it and frame it in a way that we're saying, this was a problem for the employer. This was my role. And I did X, Y, Z. And so you're literally giving them proof of what you can do. So you're showing them that you can manage time, manage people, manage projects, for example. And then at the end, you give them a result and say, and I successfully completed the project 50K under budget and 3 days early. And so what you're doing is you're creating a picture for the employer in their mind of, God, this is a person who could look at my problem, which is similar, and fix it for me. And I might have something that's 50K under budget. So I pick 3 examples like that. And then we talk about your career history. And then finally, in the career history, what I tend to do is I split the history so that you've got the core elements of the job, so what you actually did, and then you always kind of pull out the key achievements within that job. Because again, what you're trying to do in your CV is you're trying to, as you said earlier on, you're trying to demonstrate how you're better and you're kind of a step above the other people that might be applying. And showing what your key achievements are is a great way to do that, because you're not just saying, I can do the job. You're saying, look, if I come into an organization, I don't just do the job. I do X, Y, and Z, which is over and above the job. So I talk about their key achievements. And by doing that, again, what you're doing is you're creating that picture in an employer's mind of somebody who's a go-getter, who achieves things, who's really going to add value to their company. And that's what you want. And that's why they will then call you in for an interview.
That's amazing. I mean, the ATS staff, that's I didn't know that. So thank you for.
No, you're welcome.
I think it's really important that we list it. And I'm personally like that. I like to see, when I see a CV, I like to see the bullet points, because that's how my brain works. I want to process it really quickly.
Yes.
And put it aside and then read the whole thing a bit later. So
exactly.
I'm sure everyone that's watching this right now, that is one of the key things you need to do to get your dream job. That is the first thing, writing the CV correctly, making sure that it's written in the format that you're, that the people that you're applying the job with will understand, will be able to process, and will be able to see your skills straight away. So moving on to Sam, when you get, I've had to do these myself in the past, where we have this introduction of the psychometric tests, we have the whole thing with the mindset and the mindfulness when we're going to job interviews, or even when we're applying for jobs. And I know in the past, when I was a fresh graduate many years ago, one of the things that I was really scared of was the psychometric test, because I was like, what is it going to have? What if I can't do them? Like, because straight away you're questioning your intelligence, right? You're thinking, I don't think I'm good enough for that job, or I'm not going to be intelligent enough for this job. And your mindset suffers, your mindfulness boggles, everything just goes out of the place. But how important is it to have, obviously it is important, but how important are these psychometric tests? So how do you get through that barrier of, going through this fear of psychometric tests? So first of all, if you want to tell people about what psychometric tests are, but also, the mindset and mindfulness going forward into job interviews.
Thank you. So with this whole pandemic and everything, a lot of things has come together, and companies are looking at hiring people on the basis of a right mindset to the job, because as we all know, since pandemic started, a lot of things has changed. People started to work from home. People started to doing different sort of a work placement and everything like that. And what employers are looking at is, because interview process used to be face-to-face, now has jumped onto video calls. And showing yourself on the video, not everybody has this capacity to be in front of video. A lot of time we ask a lot of people, oh, can you do Facebook Live, or can you do this live or that live, or can you come on the stage? As we all know, we all have a fear of stage fear, because we can't actually stand in front of the stage and talk to several people. And when somebody says to you, you're going to be on my video call now, and people started to think, how I'm going to present myself? I'm going to switch off my camera, or I'm going to switch off. Now, as we notice on our body language, when we are sitting in the interview, we are actually mirroring a lot of things. If you see, if your interviewer is scratching his head, later on you scratching your head, you started to mirror a lot of actions, because that sometimes your interviewer is quite a easy guy or easy person who will say, yes, relax, don't worry about it. I just want to hear you, who you are exactly. And that's what's been happening on the video conferencing as well. And a lot of people, what I've heard about is they saying, not everybody's, because now there is another set of things are starting to shift with psychometric assessment. There are many psychometric assessment. People are doing personal psychometric assessment, which is you go for MBTI, you go for, which is Myers-Briggs, then you go for DISC, then you go for emotional intelligence, which I am a psychometric assessor for emotional intelligence, for individuals as well as for the team and for the corporate. So helping them to understand that person who you're going to hire in your company, is it going to be aligned with your values? Is he going to be working with your way of working? Because a lot of people apply for a job. There are two sets of people. We must have heard about, I think Hina might acknowledge that, because sometimes we look at the job and we say, oh yeah, salary is very good, I will apply for that position. Or oh, that is perfectly fine, I apply. But you never know whether your values are matching with that company or not. Because sometimes we just jump on the job and we got the job because we have the skill set, we resolve their problem. But the culture is not very good, very toxic culture. You end up going into that company and you are coming out after 2 months with a depression because you made a biggest mistake of your life. So a lot of companies now, what they have done, actually, they have done this psychometric assessment. What they want to know from you, are you committed? Are you aligned with the values, what we have the values? Are you the person who will blend into the culture? Are you integrated into the culture? Because a lot of people does not integrate in the culture, and that's where problem arises. And you look at UK firm comparing to other companies around the globe, it's completely different dynamic, how you treat your employees, how you connect with employees. So psychometric assessment is important for to employers want to know how employees going to accommodate into the culture, and the employees need to know whether I am the right fit for the company. So that's the win-win situation, both sides. You can't just jump into something else which you are not actually aligned with. So that is very important. One has to understand these are for your own betterment as well as the company betterment, because they don't want to waste time for anybody. Time is very expensive. It is the most precious commodity right now. Now, as about to mindset, when you are ready, when you are have the great CV done by Hina, who has been coaching you, making sure that you are ready. We are anxious people. We get really anxious because now you're sitting in lockdown or furlough for last 8 months and 1 year. You always started thinking, I'm going for an interview. How am I going to present myself? A lot of people, what they do is they play forward, a lot of things. Am I going to go for this? When somebody is asking the question, I'm going to answer this way or that way. They're already planning a lot of things in advance. And I used to say to people, you know what, don't do that. Just start to relax yourself. Have a calming persona, because what's going to happen is the more anxious you feel, you start using a completely gibberish in your interview, and you are not going to form words properly. And it's just relax, if the question comes to you, you just say, okay, this is, sometimes they will ask you, come on, tell me, Sam, what do you think about this situation? If I am in this situation, how are you going to tackle that? So I'll say, how are you going to tackle that? Why don't you put yourself in that situation and try to become the person who is trying to solve the problem out? Because you have all the skill sets, you have greater skill sets than you ever imagined. Again, it comes to your consciousness. Again, you have to, and what I suggest to a lot of my clients is to, before interview, make sure that you do your mindfulness, connect with yourself, be present in the moment. It's all about present in the moment. Because you know that if you are given this opportunity to be interviewed, because you already success had already happened, your interview, you went through this cycle of people are reading your CV and you has nailed the CV, and people want to hear you exactly word by word, because what you have written, is it correctly said, what you are saying are matching 100% or less than 95%. So you need to be in that sort of a capacity of being calm and collective, and just enjoy the journey. I would say to a lot of people, have fun instead of being uptight and sitting so tightly and just trying to think, because that's what problem creates. And that's why people who have frightened or stage fright, what we do, we start, when we are on the stage, we are start thinking what the next thing is going to come, and that's where we started to wobble about our speech. I've been through my journey. I was not a public speaker. I used to hold the mic here, nobody can hear anything, and people will say to me, Sam, can you put your mic down so we can hear what you are saying? I've been through my journey as well. And when you go through your practice, If you feel that you are going to be not right, I would suggest stand in front of the mirror and practice. See yourself, you are practicing. Vocalize yourself, articulate yourself, smile in your interview. Do not just make a big face, just smile. If somebody something asks, have a smile on your face, not a big smile, just a smile that people will say you are relaxed. You are managing your emotions. A lot of people says you are controlling your emotion. I say no. We are all managing our emotions, and that's the path going forward. Just to embrace it instead of trying to upload yourself that how I'm not going to go do this. I'm because once you start play forward, you're going to mess it up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, because I think that stage fright thing, and I know Samit is going to be talking about this, and he's the expert in this public speaking arena. So we'll move on to you very, very shortly, Samit. But I just wanted to add in there, like, one of the things I used to have was, going into an exam. When you're, in your primary, secondary school, and you're going to exam, and you get really nervous, and you're like, I'm going to fail this exam. I use the same methodology now with my clients, saying, that fright is the same. It's the same anxiety, right? You're like, I don't know if I'm going to ace this interview because I haven't prepared for it. I don't know any company stats, and you've stayed up all night reading about the company stats, right? Because you're like, how much turnover did this company have, just in case they ask me, or how many countries do they have offices in, because they're going to ask me this. And you go to an interview and they don't ask you any of those questions because they don't care about that. What they care about is you and the person they're going to hire. So they're going to be asking you a lot of questions about yourself and your background and your experience and how you're going to be able to help solve those problems for their company. But I think also I always tell my clients, have a little bit of chocolate. And I used to do this myself, and it used to calm my nerves. So before I sat down for an exam, even at university, I used to take a bit of chocolate with me, and I would have the chocolate, and it would just help my adrenaline, and it wouldn't give me a high, but it would make me happier. It was the happy hormone. So I was like, okay, I'm fine, I'm calm. And that has stayed with me. So now, before everything, before I did this as well, I was having a little biscuit with some chocolate, because, it just helps me. It stayed with me. So, the whole mindfulness thing that you were talking about, Sam, that is what it is. It's coming and being in the present and recognizing. And I know there are people who have their special, things that they take with them, right? They have their lucky charms or whatever it is. And if those things help you calm down and have that smile on your face and, have a positive outlook to your interviews, then by all means take them with you. No one's going to judge you for that, because we all have our quirks. We all have those little things that help us to move forward. And I think with that, I'm going to move on to Samit, because you are obviously an incredible person helping people kind of with the confidence to speak in public. And that is so important when it comes to interviews, because I've seen it myself. I've been there myself. When you go to an interview and you're like, the CEO is sat in front of you and there's two other people and they're all sharply dressed, and you're like, oh my God, like, what am I doing here? I feel out of place. What if I say the wrong thing? And I guess also what Sam was saying that resonates is how you sit, how you come across. All these things matter, but also how you dress, and they also matter. But when it comes to speaking, Samit, what are your top tips? Like, how would you say, to prepare for an interview, especially like we're doing this on Zoom, right? And so many people around the world are doing this on Zoom, interviews taking place on Zoom. And I know also that a lot of people tend to have telephone interviews, and so you can't see who you're speaking to. Sometimes I think that might help people because you just feel like you're having a conversation with someone. But for me, I like to see who I'm speaking to. I like to have eye contact, and I like to kind of get that feel that I'm connecting to that person. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, great question, Bhavna. Thank you. And thanks to iGlobal as well for putting this together. Even just being a listener so far, I've picked up so many great tips from Hina and Sam, and I'm sure Dipal will share also. So if you think about something like public speaking, a lot of people have a fear of it. And it's a fear because it's unknown. We've not ventured into something like that. We think it's dangerous. And, we can go into the psychometrics and we can speak with Sam about all the details about why we behave in such a way. But once you've got through the door, once Hina's helped you with your CV and you're at the interview stage, now it's showtime. Now you can't go off of what's on the paper. They're going to quiz you on your CV. But now it's showtime. Now you've really got to deliver. And people are afraid. And I think my tips are there are two areas you want to focus on. One is confidence and one is content. And we'll go through those together. So when it comes to something like confidence, you've got to put your best foot forward. You've got to step out into the comfort zone. I do a lot of public speaking coaching for clients, for youth organizations. And what I say to everyone is, you are a unique individual, right? You have your own traits. You've got your own personality. You have your unique way of looking at the world. There's 7 billion people on the planet. We all have something to share. We all have something that someone else could do with listening to. So from a confidence perspective, if you want to make your mark on the world, you've got to go out and do something different. It is when you step out of your comfort zone, do you really grow? That's where growth really happens. And I've got a module in one of my workshops where we really go into that in detail, and I'll be very interested to explore that with you guys today. So it's about trying to make a mark. It's about trying to do something different. And if you look throughout history, the greatest minds, the people that have succeeded the most, have done that. They've been doubted, they've been put down, they've inflicted upon themselves this doubt that I'm not good enough. So confidence is really important, and there are many steps that we can take to build that confidence. So if I was to give the listeners at home a tip to do with confidence, it's about practicing. It's about seeking out opportunities where things are difficult. If at work your manager says, oh, we're going to do this new project, I need someone to talk in front of 100 people, be the first person to put your hand up. You might not have the skills right now. That's fine. You've got to stretch yourselves. You've got to do things that are different. So confidence is massive, and we all need a bit of confidence. So there's many areas we can discuss with that. And the second is content. Now, I think this goes quite nicely with what Hina was saying about what skills you put on your CV. Don't lie about that. You've got to be a genuine person. So when it comes to your content, research. Go look at subject matter. Speak the lingo of your industry. And when you're on camera, when you're on the phone, make sure you are articulating. Make sure you are communicating properly, and not just trying to wing it, not trying to blag it. I'm not just trying to. I know the interview is like the apex of where you're trying to get to, but what happens if you get into that role and now you can't deliver? You don't want to put yourself in that situation. So rehearse your content. You can speak to friends, you can speak to family. I'm sure if you ask some of your friends or your colleagues, can you give me 10 minutes? I want to practice an interview. I just want to run through a couple of questions, and ask them to throw you curveballs. That's when you really refine who you are. And when it comes to things like subject matter, let's just take the tech industry, for example. If you know about cloud computing and machine learning and 5G, if you know about those things, you can talk about them any which way they come, right? If you are well versed in the beauty industry and you know what the latest makeup is, what the latest brands are, then when you talk, you know what you're talking about. But if I was to pretend I knew everything about football and I could tell you what the statistics and managers are, and you'll very quickly realize that I don't really know what I'm talking about. And so think about your sector, think about your industry, think about who you're speaking to, and make sure you've done that research. Make sure you come across with confidence and with the content. And there are many techniques we can go through to help you do some of those. I guess I've got a question for you, Bhavna. Is there a time where you've had to do some public speaking where you've,
I'm always public speaking. But it's, a lot of women that I mentor actually say this. And when you talked about having a friend, there's a huge fear of speaking on like lives, like Facebook lives or Instagram lives, and they have aspirations of becoming YouTube speakers, but they have this fear, or how do I look, or how do I sound, or what if I say the wrong thing? And so I mentor them through those limiting beliefs. But what I also tell them to do is I actually tell them, go and create a very closed private Facebook group and just have yourself and 2 other people that are going to give you proper feedback, not just tell you, yeah, it was beautiful, but actually give you tips that actually maybe, like I get told this a lot, and I feel like I'm doing this right now. I talk really fast. So one of the things is I always get told, slow down, you know, there's no rush. And I find myself going really quick, and then I realize, and so I kind of bring myself back down. But you don't get those tips from people if you just do it and then you're like, oh, I really messed up. But I think for me, I've been public speaking since I was like 17. So I just enjoy speaking to people in general. But it didn't mean that I didn't have stage fright. It didn't, you know, and I have had my fair share of stumbles and panic attacks and all these things. But I think it comes with practice, right? Like you are not, if you don't try it, you're always going to have that fear. But I also think it's quite addictive. Once you know it works for you, then you want to keep doing it. And I'm sure that a lot of you will agree in the current situation that we're all in, video is king. Everyone wants to do stuff online. Everyone wants to be seen online. So, you know, as if you're going into a career, whether it's in technology or whether even if it's in the beauty industry or engineering or whatever it is, the world is much smaller. Now you don't need to travel. Like if you work for, say, a tech company, say you work for Microsoft, and you don't need to now travel to the different, you know, worldwide locations, because now you can have a Zoom call with the tech expert in San Francisco whilst you sat in London, or whilst you sat in Kenya, or whilst you sat in Hong Kong, or wherever you are. So if you are not well versed with being confident of doing this as what we're doing right now, and explaining to them articulately, this is a problem we're facing in London or here, then it becomes an issue, because as a company, they want to know that you have that skill set to be able to present yourself in an online setting just as much as in a conference. So I think what you were saying there about, you know, content as well is really important. If we start waffling about things in an interview, which I think a lot of people do, and I've done it, you know, because you think, oh, you also think that sometimes you think, oh, if I tell them this story, you know, they might like, what I've done. And really, frankly speaking, they're not interested, because like you were saying, Sam, as well, time is money. They just want you to answer what they need you to answer. And using that language that you mirror is all they want to know. They want to know this person is going to fit into our organization because they know what they're talking about, because they're using the language that mirrors our language. They can talk in front of people. They're confident, you know, and they've got the right skill set because it shows in their CV. So, you know, all those things kind of bring me onto Deepal, because Deepal is a coach. And I think now more than ever, I have been introduced to so many wonderful coaches. I have a coach of my own. In fact, I've had a coach for the last 4 years. And I think it's a great investment. I think it's really important, if you're not sure about something, to find a coach that aligns with you, so you can get coached or mentored through the process. If you are, and I think that's even more important, people, I think, maybe not for new graduates, but for someone who maybe is going through a furlough or has been made redundant recently, or they want to change direction. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients worked in investment banking. She's worked there for the last 15 years. She's in a really senior position, but she's got a young family and is absolutely like, she's like, I can't do this. I'm already on furlough. I'm not going in. And I really enjoyed spending time with my family. So what I really enjoy is alternative therapies. So I'm going to train in alternative therapies, but I have no clue of what I need to do, because I've never set up my own business. I've helped other people with, you know, their own plans, but I have no idea. So that brings me on to you, Deepal, because you help women especially do this, right? You help them kind of coach them through to getting into maybe their new dream jobs. So tell us a little bit about that.
It was really interesting having heard Sam, Hina, and some, and it almost brings it all together, isn't it? As you say, it's when someone's had so much experience in such an industry and then they want to change careers. I think initially, yes, doing their psychometric test is so important. Like, you say you've got somebody, a client, and she wants to move towards those alternative therapies. It's, well, where do I fit in the world? Almost in that Myers-Briggs and saying, who am I? I've worked in an industry for so long, what's actually my skill sets, you know, can I do this, you know, and then having that CV as well, you know, having it out. And even if you're not actually applying for a job or you're changing your career, just having that CV done so you know actually for yourself who you are and where you want to go. And it's interesting because I do get, you know, women who come along going, oh, I've got now a young family, and actually having a coach at there's always a stage in your life. You'll have different changes, don't you? And I think for women, a lot of the time, it's the point where they have children, it changes things. And also for men, I think the point where they have the marriage, their partners, and then they're like, oh, I feel like I'm now the breadwinner. I need to do something with my career as well. I can't just plod along in this, or do I need to make a change? So a lot of women who come going, I just don't want to be that mum. I do want to have a career, but being in sort of different, say, industry, I'm missing that time. I feel guilty going to work, leaving them at home. Oh, what am I doing, you know? So it's really all about as well time management, and it's so important making sure that, you know, you managing that time, and you want to have the best of everything, isn't it? But it's also then using within that time management, using your resources that you have. Like, you know, you might want to use Sam for psychometric testing and say, well, that's a resource I can go to. Or you go to Hina and say, oh, can you help me with my CV because I'm looking for something different? Or you might go to Summit and say, look, I'm, you know, looking to start my own business, but I'm so scared of public speaking, but I want to do something in it. Can you help me? So it's about using that time, but using that time wisely and intelligently, and not just kind of, okay, I want to start my own business, but well, what do I, you know, where do I go? So it's about using that resources and managing your time and using the people around you, what they say, your network, isn't it? You've probably built up so many people that you know. I mean, go through your LinkedIn is used, I think at the moment, especially now, I think since lockdown, I think over a year, I see LinkedIn used more and more. And it's about getting in touch with your network and connections, and where do you go from that? So I think LinkedIn is so important, and using those resources available to you, because there is. And it's important, and this is where coaches come in, because you do look on LinkedIn and you're saying, well, you know what, I'm going through these life changes. Who can I speak to? What do I want to do? My confidence is low. You then have self-doubt. You may have been wanting to apply for a job and you talk yourself out of it because these words, these little devil going, you're not good enough, it's going to take up all your time, you're going to stay away from your kids, your skills just don't match. You might have a job description with 10 different skills that you need. You look at it and say, oh, I've only got 4 of them, so I'm not going to apply. Straight away you go, I'm not going to apply for it. Why should I? So I think having that coach will say to you, challenge you and say, well, tell me what makes you think you can't apply for this job. Tell me why. What are you afraid of? And more importantly, what's keeping you up at 3 a.m. in the morning? So, and you're right, like you say, you've got a coach. As a coach, I have a coach too, because they help you. And most people here, all these experts, have probably either been through coaching, have a coach, have a mentor, someone they can turn to and challenge them. And that's the main thing, I think, coming back to, getting your dream job. It's about coming, as I think Sam mentioned, coming out that comfort zone. And that's where those coaches come in to say, look, you can do this. And yes, there are some tips you can use. You can use your resources. You can make sure you manage your time, and don't worry about what other people say, and don't compare yourself to, your next door neighbor or your friend because they're doing so well. And that's really important, isn't it? That we get into this whole, people do this where they compare.
Absolutely, Deepal. That is one of the key things I also teach, is comparison is the thief of not just joy, but everything, right? If you water your own grass, it will grow, it will thrive, it will flourish, instead of trying to think, why is the other person's grass more greener? So I think it's really important as well to use your resources, like you're saying, bring it all together and ask for help. I think when you are starting, when you're a fresh graduate, say you're coming out of this university, you've spent 3 years at university, you've had a great time, you've got all this knowledge and you want to get that job. And I think that is one of the most difficult times, because you get, you know, even you could be the most amazing, incredible, intelligent person who has had a first degree and you've made these amazing connections, but you're just not securing the job. And it could be because you're not using your resources, you're not using your network, you're not speaking to people, because, or maybe because you're not confident, or you're not coming across in the right way, or not using the right words, or not using the right terminology, or you're not confident with speaking, you know. So there's so many things that could be hindering your success in getting that dream job, because you know, it's not only about the qualification. At the end of the day, it's the person and your as a whole. So you need to be that complete package for that company to hire you, not just because you've got first degree. You know, I know people who've had a third degree, you know, they've not done as well, but actually they're really good speakers and they can really put the message across very well. And they've managed to get the job because the company's like, you know what, yeah, you might not have done that well here, but actually you have the skills we need and we know that you can come across really well. And you know, there are people who might be dyslexic and who might not perform as well in university, but actually they come across much better in person. So all these things actually matter and they come together really well, like writing your CV, getting it right, you know, getting your mindset right. And one of the things actually, Sam, that I touched upon when I was reading about you was meditation, and coming, you know, using those meditations points, like maybe just spending 5 minutes a day to calm those nerves, or to, you know, just sit down in your own time and not have to think about it. And I have this thing that I talk about a lot, which is the morning routine. You know, get into a routine, get into this setup where, you know, you are taking yourself towards the success mark, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to make this work for me, but the way I'm going to make this work for me is set myself a routine. I'm going to do this in the morning. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to have the right mindset. You know, I'm going to have the right affirmations going through this interview. I'm not just going to rock up in this Karen Millen dress because I look nice and I look pretty and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to ace the interview. Actually, no, there's a lot more to it than just turning up. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some people who are very gifted and they can just turn up and they get the job done. But for the majority of us, I think it's really important that we take all the things that have been said here today about mindfulness and mindset. You know, maybe find out where you can do these tests online as well, you know, these emotional intelligence tests, and just go and do them. Like, so you've done them, so you know what to expect. You know, find out what all the different kinds of testings are, so you're aware of them. So when you're being asked to do them, they're not coming to you as a surprise. So, because sometimes when people say to you, oh, you're going to have to do this test, you kind of panic. You go, oh, what test? But if you've known about them, now that you're watching this and you know about them, go and find out about it. Read up about it, maybe even do them online, start getting used to it, and then start speaking, you know, practice it with friends. Write it down if it helps you, you know, write it down on a card and practice it in front of you know, if you've got Zoom, just open Zoom up and talk to yourself. Like sometimes that is one of the best things you can do, is just, you know, the mistakes you make, you can then rectify them and then do it again and do it again. And I used that technique in my photography business because I'm a self-taught wedding photographer as well as a mentor for women. And I practiced it. I had dolls and I used to practice them on the doll. You know, this light is better or that light's better. And that is how you learn. Practice makes perfect. You have to keep practicing. Even the best public speakers in the world practice, right? They will have their speech ready or they'll have their talk ready and they will practice it before they go online. Not, you know, everyone is not going to just remember these things. So please don't compare yourself to, you know, the big public speakers. Like, you're not the next Tony Robbins. He's been doing this for many, many years. He knows what he's doing and he's got a team behind him. Don't forget that he's got a massive team behind him. So do not compare yourself to anybody that is out there doing what you want to do. And then kind of bringing in people as well, because, you know, if you are going from one job to another, in the sense you're in furlough or you've been made redundant or you just want a change in direction, then get yourself a coach. There are some incredible coaches around. I would be very happy to help. I'm sure Deepal would. Hina, Sam, Samit, we're all coaches in our own respect as well. And we help in different areas. And you don't have to get a coach that does everything. If you are lacking in a certain area, so if it's just public speaking that you want help with, then go to someone like Samit who can help you with just public speaking. If you need something with just CV writing, then find someone like Hina. If you just want someone who can help you with how, maybe styling yourself, how you look and how you present yourself, find someone who can help you, who's a personal stylist and who can help you in that area. There are coaches for everything. If you want a business coach, again, business coaches come in different ways. There's a marketing one. There is someone who can help you with PR, someone who can help you with social media. It's vast. It's a really big area of expertise that is covered by different people. And find the person that is aligned to you. So, do your due diligence, speak to people, see the results, and then make those decisions. But I think ultimately everything we've said together today will help you get your dream job. Don't be afraid. There is a job out there for you. You will succeed, but just make sure that you take, everything we've said, take the advice of people, and by all means connect with us outside of here. We will be happy to connect with everyone that's watching if you want any expertise outside of here. So thank you for watching this, the Indian Money Show today, where we've been talking about getting your dream job. I've been joined today by Sam Dosa, Hina Patni, Deepal Shah, and Sumit Sharma. And I'm Bhavna Barrett, and it's been lovely to speak to you all today, and hope you get your dream job. Thank you very much.